Welcome to the final countdown. Let me get Pete assigned here so maybe we can get his camera to show up. Right now he's in witness protection, as it seems here. So
Brilliant.
Just do it, Governor. Honest.
we were joking pre-show that we lost you in the metaverse. So anyway,
Definitely lost somewhere.
It's like I could see the background light, but of your monitor behind you, but no front light.
Have you got the voice change as well?
That's what I said. He's going to go.
I think Andrew still has that.
He's going to go in witness protection this morning, and hey, there we go.
Brilliant.
And now he's frozen.
Oh God, it's frozen again.
He's bloody frozen.
We have all kinds of fun today.
We'll get there. You guys carry on. I'll figure this thing out. Technical problems.
We can hear you, so you can contribute. So those of folks listening on the podcast will get it. So, but it looks like we are. Looks like LinkedIn's having a problem with comments today. So I see the YouTube comments. So I'm gonna have to tilt my head full sideways. So if you're joining us over on LinkedIn land, say what's up. If you're joining us on YouTube, say hello in the chat. Ask any questions, fire away. So, but yes, welcome to. This is going to be the last of the Not an MSP show for 2022. Can you believe that? 2 weeks left in the year. That's crazy. Crazy. Anyway, so this will be we're going to go out with a bang today and just talk about some of the things reflecting back on this year. And then we're also going to do some prognosticating as to what we think might appear on the scene in 2023. So we got Westaway IT joining us in the afternoon. Let me move comments around here, make those a little bigger. Westaway IT, we appreciate you hanging out with us today. Excellent. So let's go ahead and talk about one kind of highlights. I figured what we could do is just kind of go around the horn, and if there's one thing that stood out to each of us this year, maybe it was an accomplishment, doesn't matter what it is, just kind of what was our favorite thing of 2022. We'll do rock, paper, scissors.
I win.
Darkness beats everything.
Good. Well, since you're into the darkness, Pete, you can go first. So.
Oh God. Sorry, what were we talking about? I'm just still trying to figure out my
what was the highlight from 2022 for you, whether personal, business, just anything in general?
You're talking to a man pitched in darkness about highlights. Exactly. Is this like we're really rubbing in at this point? So yeah.
Highlights for so many and so few at the same time. Highlights for me, I think, have just been obviously starting to meet a lot of people again. Now the world's started to open up. Actually kind of getting out there. I love the Tech Tribe meetings. I'm about to dash off to one here in the South Coast this afternoon as well. But yeah, just being able to get back out there and actually meet people and do some real work. I'm doing like air quotes, but real work with real people. It's been good. And from a personal kind of objective for me, I've obviously been doing like little bits of coaching. I launched my video marketing course. I'm glad I got that going. We're going to do another one in January, hopefully, which will be really, really good. And I'm glad I've survived another year. That's probably it.
Yeah. Amen to that.
I think anytime anyone's asked me like what my growth aspirations and those kind of things, I've not been looking to grow or do anything like magical and achieve things. I just want to sustain what I've currently got, and certainly from like again personal goals and objectives, I managed to sustain it for a year. So what 1 year further, it's all good.
Good. What about you, Richard?
I think to echo what Pete said, it was brilliant to fully get back out there. Now, I can remember being on the road at the end of 2021. I did some speaking at the Acronis Summit in Schaffhausen in Switzerland and went to Amsterdam, but the world was still not fully open. And so this year it's been really good to get out on the road. I'm super, super proud of what we've achieved with, as Pete said, about the Tech Tribe local groups. That's something I was very much involved in. And with here in the UK, we've got those Tech Tribe local meetups. They're sprawling all over the place now. We've got in the southeast and the northeast, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, all over. So even though, like from a personal perspective, I've stepped down from the Tech Tribe business now to concentrate more on my own business, I'm really proud of what we've achieved there, and I think that's going to go on. And Nigel and I, when we first got together, we spoke about what a profound impact local peer groups had on my MSP business and his MSP business when we first started out in this industry. And I think that was something that's really missing, or was missing. So the Tech Tribe local groups getting up and running and just allowing a new generation of MSPs to realize that you can work alongside your so-called competitors. And this industry is absolutely unique in the business world, I think, in that, managed service providers want to help one another. And we've talked so many times on this show about like a rising tide lifting all boats. And for me, that's what the Tech Tribe's all about. The Tech Tribe local groups are absolutely flourishing. And, fingers crossed that we'll see more of them in the US, Europe, Australia, and so on and so forth, because that's been a real highlight for me, seeing those groups grow, getting out there and seeing people again. And to follow up on that, it's going to sound a bit weird, but like Pete, for my 2023, I'm actually pulling back a little bit. I'm going to spend less time on the road. So it's been lovely to get out there and meet people in 2022. But 2023, I want to be at home a little bit more. I've got a number of books that I want to put that I want to put the finishing touches to and get released out there. So it's going to be about consolidating for me in 2023.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. The Tech Tribe. Nigel will be making his presence known over in the UK next week, from what I hear. So
that's right.
Yeah, lots to look forward to for the Tribe next week. All right, Scott, you're up, buddy.
So much good stuff. This year we officially became award-winning Cloud Nexus. I'll just drop that in there because we won an award, and not even one of those ones that you pay for a table and you win an award, like a real one. Oh, there we go. Raise the roof. But yeah, CompTIA were kind enough to award us with their, UK solution provider accolade, which was really nice, for us to achieve. And I'm so proud of the team. I think it's been a year for us to really kind of find our feet and find who we are and really kind of establish more of our identity, which has been really nice. So we've had like our marketing, again, moving to another level. We brought in Claudio, so we have our mascot, and he's, making an appearance in such a big way across like our media, our welcome boxes. We have welcome boxes, or as we call them, like shock and awe packages, I think, as in the Tribe, really establishing those things when we work with new partners or new clients. And so it's just been a year of really just, I think, that first 2 years we were kind of finding what it is we wanted to do and what we wanted to specialize in, and trying a lot of different things. And I think just really figuring out where we wanted to be. And this year, I think we just about nailed it to go, I think we get it. I think we know what we're good at. I think we know what we're passionate about. I think we know where we want to say no to things. And I think we know what we want to do for next year and where we really want to focus and hone in on. And it's just been such a great year for us to actually figure all that out. It's taken a bit of time, and I think we've learned some lessons. We've been bitten in the bum a few times, and I think there's nothing like the pain of making mistakes to help you learn. It's not all sunshine and flowers. That's definitely not the case. And I wouldn't ever think we went through 2022 and like, oh man, this was easy. Woo! It's been a challenge, even for me personally, from a mental health perspective, it's been very challenging at times. So sometimes, I'll say this because I imagine there's people who listen to the podcast or who are on live will see that you see the public face of everyone's social media and their LinkedIn, and you see them on stage and it's all big waves and smiles and it's all happy. But then like in the back room, there's like, crap, these guys haven't paid their bills. These guys haven't paid on time yet. We have bills going out, like the insurance is due, the tax is due. We have all these big outgoings, and you're like, oh, I've got to go and chase to get the cash in the bank to get that out. And, the stress of not making payroll, all of those things still happen, not month to month, but they do happen right throughout the year. And so again, just encourage everyone, because I speak to other MSPs and they're like, "Oh man, it's always going so great for you guys," and I'm really pleased. And like, yeah, that's the public perception of what we put out there. But behind the scenes, there's still a lot of paddling under the water and the graceful swan and all those analogies. There's still a lot of that happens. So as I look back on 2022, and I think there's a load of stuff that we've done really well, but there's still lessons to learn for how to do things for next year as well. We've talked about it, I think, many times on this show about getting paid on time, getting paid in advance, those kind of things that help de-stress some of those areas, but also just really niching down. What is it we're good at? What do we want to be famous for? What do we invest our time and our effort, in learning? And how do we do that better next year? That's what I've taken away from this year. It's been a really good year.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. It was kind of a highlight for me too, was getting back at the first conference I've been to pre-COVID. I went to People of Video up in Albany, New York, met some incredible creators, which was a blessing to me because I liked it because it was a small event. I think there was less than 100 people there. So, I got to meet, Tim Schmoyer, lots of great folks that I've been following and creating with. And that's what I'm looking forward to in 2023 is doing more collaborations with some of the people I got to meet in real life. But it was funny because we have that belief that, our online friends can't be real friends. It was interesting to meet in real life with the people that we watch and how real they are. They've got the same struggles as we do. And I think that's what it enlightened me on was just exactly what you guys have talked about, which I have seen across a lot of spaces, not just in the IT space, in the creator space. A lot of people wanting to do less or just, really honing down on specific things. I think we've all kind of still trying to figure out this post-COVID world we live in. And I think, that's been the challenge is figuring out where do we want to spend our time? Who do we actually want to help? What do we enjoy doing? So for me, that's what I'm looking forward to in 2023. I'm going to be working with Doc Rock in January. So I'm just, there's tons and tons of things that I want to do in 2023 to just kind of push myself a little bit further while at the same time doing less. It's been a learning year for me. I'm a first time childless in, 18 years. My son left home this year and so empty nester. So that's kind of a weird feeling. My wife and I have just been kind of the last 4 months since he moved out. It's weird not to have somebody to look after. But anyway, I've been hearing that quite a bit, and I've seen the stress levels in the IT space are kind of at an all-time high. I personally have helped over a dozen IT companies transition out. Just because people want to do something a little bit different. It's the common theme that I'm hearing is this is not the same industry as it was when I started, 10 or 15 years ago. So I think a lot of people are reaching that crescendo of, okay, post-pandemic, is this something I really see myself doing in the next 3, 4, 5 years? So I'm seeing a lot of people say no to that. So Lee Wood joining us from Facebook land. Welcome, Lee. So let's do some prognosticating and some, magic 8-ball on 2023. We talked a little bit about what our plans are to a light extent for 2023. But what do we think about the IT industry, just the world in general? Anybody want to go first for, just what their predictions are for 2023?
Plenty of predictions. Before we jump into that, I want to pick up on a thread that Pete mentioned, and I know Scott will probably agree with, and something you mentioned, Andrew. We talked about 2022 being the re-emergence of MSP events. And, I went to IT Nation and the CompTIA events and the Acronis Summit, and there was, fairly full houses there. So I think people have overcome that, that COVID reluctance to get out there and see one another again. What I would say for 2023, and this is sort of a prediction, but also an encouragement to the MSP industry, is that while you get a lot of value from going to IT conferences, MSP events, and my business was growing off the back of learning from people at those type of events and getting out there, there is so much value to be found for MSPs by going to non-IT events, marketing events, video conferences. I know, Pete, you flew across, was it Los Angeles? You flew across to there. Scott, I met up with Kaylee from your team at a marketing event up here in Newcastle. Andrew, you were talking about getting out there to like video events. I've been along to Marketed Live and Atomicon, other events here. Now, for anybody listening or watching to this and like, I've got no idea what those events are. This is where the value is to be found, because there are hardly any MSPs going to these events. And yet, what's the number one thing that people in the MSP industry say they haven't got the experience to do or can't find the time to do? It's marketing. So I'd encourage everybody listening, to have a look and see what are the events that are going on outside your normal sphere of comfort. What are the non-IT events that are going on out there? Because there is so much we can learn, not only as an industry, but as individuals, by observing how people in other industries go about their business. And the marketing industry is a brilliant one. Pete will tell you, and Scott will tell you, having gone to these events, and Andrew as well, there is some really, really smart people out there, and we can learn from them and bring that knowledge into the IT industry and get a leap ahead of our competitors. So I've been to a number of marketing conferences this year, learned so much myself. And I can count on one hand the number of IT businesses or even technology businesses that I've bumped into while I've been there. And it's going to be no surprise to anybody. Scott and Cloud Nexus were at the events. There's one or two other really cutting edge MSPs in the UK were at these events, but nobody else was there. And yet all the MSPs go to the same all the MSPs go to the same IT conferences, speak to the same vendors, see the same faces. That's great. I'm all for the MSP community as a whole, a massive advocate for it. But there's so much to be learned by going outside and going to other industry events, other conferences. So, it's not really prognostication here, Andrew, but that's a prediction that the top MSPs will start looking outside of the industry for inspiration and advice. And it's also an encouragement to anybody listening to this. Get out there and go to a few other marketing events. I hope to see you there.
Yeah, for sure. Robert Gibbons is joining us. Longtime supporter of all of our stuff. We appreciate Robert joining. His throwdown for there's plenty of opportunities for MSPs in 2023. So definitely agree with him there. But Lee said, events are great for spreading COVID amongst each other.
I was just saying, so I spent time with Lee over in Orlando for IT Nation, and he was coughing and spluttering and things. And we just thought he got a cold. He'd got COVID, and poor bloke. So I'm really glad you're home. Lee had to stay in the USA for a few days after that. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, I should say, for Lee, because I know the apartment that he stayed in was beyond luxurious and that. So, and the Americans do food deliveries and grocery deliveries really, really well. So don't feel too sorry for him. But yeah, it's that's a tough one. We've all got to put up with COVID.
He said he was
you were just telling us. Yeah, I was going to say, you were just telling us that you just had COVID. So you're telling me you met Lee in Florida, he had COVID, and then, just the other week you had COVID too. So Lee,
many people came away. Lee, I know he's Microsoft's favorite partner in the UK, but he's also a super spreader, and he almost decimated the entire MSP industry in like 2 or 3 days there. So thank God we're all still here.
That was intentional, right? He's like, I'm just taking out the competition.
Eliminate the competition while he sits in his penthouse.
Yeah, it's Q4. I need to eliminate the competition, get some deals in.
No, we're glad you're all right.
Jason Carlton joining us. We appreciate having you on today. He said, we're shocking at marketing. So let's kind of spin off on that, because I've seen it and heard and participated in a few discussions around that in the last couple weeks. And I think that this was, Robert definitely attributed that as well, Richard, to attending events outside the industry to get inspiration. What are some where do you guys think that needs to change? What do you think that the MSP sales and marketing process needs to shift to? Because I think we've seen the tried, haggard way of doing things for so long, and every time I turn around, there's a new company offering MSP marketing to MSPs. Like there was 3 that just popped up this week I'd never heard of.
Right.
But it's the same kind of cookie cutter messaging and sales process. So if you guys had a stab, even if we're dead wrong, where do you guys think the MSP sales and marketing process needs to go?
Dare I mention the
Dying
word
to jump on this one, aren't you, Pete?
Feels horrible to say that, but I feel that AI, and particularly the new, obviously the chatbot that's obviously come out in the last week or so, everyone's going to start using that. You can write blog posts in seconds with that kind of chat AI bot. So I wonder if people are just going to use that as an opportunity to, rather than use like generic marketing services and outsourcing marketing, so to speak, that they'll just throw an idea into the chat bot, copy and paste it onto the website, not probably pay much attention to reading what it says maybe, and just throwing it up online just to see how it works. There was an interesting one by Marques Brownie, MKBHD, put a video out about the chatbot and said that it always gets something wrong. So even when you're doing like spec comparisons, it would pick like a last year spec to compare against this year's spec and get it slightly wrong. So it makes me think that if it's doing that to like a very clear, there's definitely stuff out there online that tells the truth. That I'm sure it's going to make plenty of mistakes on MSPs type content as well. But it's very easy to come up with like title ideas, inspiration, content, checklists. I mean, you can tell the thing to tell you how to build a PC and just give you a step-by-step guide for how to build it, which components to use. So there's definitely something coming down the line with AI. What format what will its final form be? I don't really know. It's probably in this more fun phase of everyone's just posting about it online and sharing pictures of themselves drawn by AI and things at the moment, which is interesting to see how that's going to. It's good. Has anyone read the terms and conditions? Are they going to own your face now for the rest of the eternity in those those AI image things? Just does make me
We're
wonder.
going to go off on a tangent on that one in a minute. So, yeah. Richard, I know you've probably
I think fundamentally just off the back of that, the generic services are good, and everyone kind of tries to find like blogging templates. And I know that there's Tech Tribe's obviously got some, Paul Green's got some, but we all know that still generic content is bad, really, because it's just like repurposed content on multiple platforms. However, the AI stuff, like there's some other websites that will still be able to write a whole blog post for you. They are getting better, like every single day they're getting better. So I think it will get to a stage where we could just load some ideas into it. It will spit out a blog post, and we can write our very uniquely written, not plagiarized content for our MSP. Maybe it'll come to the stage where we can just write a newsletter. Like we can plumb in, give me a newsletter for March 2023, please. And it will just give you here you go, here's a newsletter. That'll be very interesting to see if we can get to that stage. Maybe someone will build it.
But the last thing the world needs is like average content out there, isn't it? I mean, we're all drowning in content. I mean, thank you for everybody who's joining us live for this, because we know, we're not competing against other MSP shows for your eyeballs here. We are competing against everything else in the world because there's so many demands on your attention. So to your point, Pete, about Chat GPT and things like that, I've got an article going out this week on Tubservatory about how people are using Chat GPT to write their children's bedtime stories. It's like, oh my God, people, wow. If we can't take the time to do a bedtime story for our kids, like things have got really skewed here. And so my point about using AI for creating blog posts and things of that nature is, yeah, it's going to be there, but it's just going to be more content. And I think the content, and for me, a prediction, and I don't think, nobody's going to disagree with this, the MSPs who are going to stand head and shoulders above just the noise out there are the ones who are putting their own personality into it. And the best way of doing that is video. You've got people on the call here who are absolutely killing it with video, and me. And but the whole point is just getting yourself in front of camera letting people see your personality, sharing your knowledge with them. And it just really, it works. And I know how scary it is to get in front of the camera, but I was chatting to somebody a little bit earlier from a vendor, and we were talking about the very first time we got in front of the camera and how we were stumbled and spluttering and all the rest of it. But you do it and you do it and you do it, and then you get good at it. Or, and you just put your personality over there, and it really stands out from the crowd. So I know we've got AI with, deep fakes and all these sort of things just around the corner. But until somebody can actually replicate you, a computer can replicate you talking to camera from your heart and from your head, talking about what you know, I think, there's going to be a big place for video marketing or indeed just video personalities going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, that's one of the things that we as an industry and the MSP, we're all introverts. I mean, I think if we go around the room right here, we're all introverts at heart. But yet we do this, and it does get easier with the reps, just like going to the gym. But one of the people that I met this year was Roberto Blake, and I know Pete probably knows Roberto's work. You want to talk about a real introvert? This is somebody with 500,000 followers. Excuse me, 1 minute. 500,000 subs on YouTube, but he's one of the most humble, introverted person that I've met. And then just, you see him on stage, but then you talk to, he's the same person. So I think, we're just getting out of that fear of turning the video camera on. But I agree with you.
And it doesn't have to be what we're doing now, just doing a piece to camera. It doesn't have to be a solo endeavor. So Robert Gibbons, who's joining us today in the chat, I shone a light on some of Robert's work earlier because he interviews industry experts. And so he's on the camera and he's interviewing. So he interviewed, say, Robert Bohr of Keepable, who were a fantastic solution for GDPR in a box, really for MSPs. And you know what? At the end of the video, and that video is going to be useful to Robert Gibbons' clients. It's going to be of interest to suppliers, all sorts of things there. So there's no downside to it. But Robert was speaking to Robert. And he gets the shine off it as well. So if people are like, oh, we need some help with GDPR or whatever it might be, they're going to remember Robert's video and they're going to say, they're not going to say, hey, Robert, you're the expert in GDPR. Can you help us? But they're going to know that he knows somebody within his network who's the expert and go to him. So another way of doing video is, putting yourself in there with experts. And all of us, everybody watching this, everybody listening to this, experts in your local business community who you could sit down and do a short interview with or get even, a short video where you get top tips off them. So that's another way to do it if you're a little bit more nervous about being the only person on camera.
Yeah, and I know that was one of the ideas that I swiped from a friend of mine, Satima Fowler. She did that. Her company was Rochester IT, which became Iconic, which I forget who bought them, but I got that idea from her a decade ago. She was doing that, and it was great because she would go out and interview somebody, and some of that stuff would get picked up on the news. And, she benefited, and it was not necessarily around technology. She would just interview business leaders in her community. I think she even set up a web, rochesterrockstars.com, and that's where she would just feature all of those videos. But it was great. It was a great way to know her. It was a great way for her to feature businesses, whether they're her clients or not. So, yeah, steal that idea. That is a great idea, Richard.
Just to throw this out here as well, because this came through. I don't know if people run YouTube channels, they would have got their year-end review email come through this week, and It fascinated me that I don't know if you can see that very well, but the most watched live stream. I don't know if you can make it full screen.
There you go.
The most watched live stream on my channel, considering I've not live streamed on my channel this year at all, was one that I was uploaded about 4 years ago, which was a how to complete the Cyber Essentials basic questionnaire. And it had 507 views this year. So that's 507 people that have watched a 4-year-old video that's no longer correct because it's now out of date about how to fill in their Cyber Essentials questionnaire. Now, this is the kind of thing that I always think, and if you're like a cybersecurity professional or expert or advisor, just make that live stream or shoot the video of you just sitting down and going, question number 1 is this. This is how you answer that question. This is, the things that might cause you to give it one answer over another answer. Just basically run through the entire questionnaire. Yes, it might take you an hour, but 500 people have watched me actually interview someone else and get someone else to tell me how to fill it out for an hour on a live stream that I didn't even shoot this year. So just things like that from a content perspective can work really well. And it shows there's demand for it. And the fact they're watching a 4-year-old version means that people need to make the new version and upload it so there's better things to watch. You shouldn't be watching my 4-year-old version. You should be watching someone else's much better version of the right questionnaire.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where marketing goes. Jason Carlton said it's pitching content with a non-tech geek talk. And I agree with you, Richard. That's, I think that's one of the things where your video presence has taken off, Pete, is your personality is there. And then just getting the reps in there, people come back for that personality, and it's allowed you to branch into other things. We see, since you're out of IT, what you're doing now just spawned a completely different world for you. And I think that is the fascinating thing with what we see is there may be something that you want to do on the side or something that you want to do in place of what you're doing right now, but start with what you know. And that's where you did. You started with what you knew with your IT business. And then when you sold it, you're doing something different, completely different, but yet the same. But again, it's just people connect with people. So
I'll throw something else out there because we're talking about future, what future predictions for next year. Off the back of what you said, Andrew, where you've helped, a dozen people or so basically get out of their businesses and exit them this year and move on to other things. I think we're going to see a lot more of the similar thing next year. Obviously we're all seeing acquisitions and the big vendors being swallowed up by other vendors and those kind of things. But I think from I think certainly next year is the only really real year I've come around to and gone, okay, what's coming next year? Because we know something not good is going to happen. Like we've had so many years of it nowadays where it's been, COVID, we've had the war, we've had the energy crisis, we've had something every single year that's come up against. And now it's just, what's next? Like, what battle are we going to have to fight next year for something that doesn't exist today? Something's going to come out of the woodwork and us have to fight against it. That makes it really, really difficult for us as business owners to run our businesses. And so because that kind of thing and that kind of mentality is around now, I see a lot of people, or I foresee a lot of people just thinking, okay, now is the time to get out. There's too much stress and hassle with running a business nowadays. Let's just sell up, get the best price we can get for our business and move on. So I think that's definitely going to be coming down the line. Not really down the line. It's probably still happening now, but just really a reminder for that. Even if you aren't thinking of selling or aren't there yet, keep that in mind with your business today of like how you're structuring it, keeping an eye on your EBITDA and tracking your profit and your costs and all those things so that if the day does come where you kind of wake up and go, oh, today's the day we're going to sell, you're fully prepared already. Something that I really, really did not do is I was not prepared to sell. I was still of the mind that I'm going to do this until I'm old and retired. And then all of a sudden it became very quick and apparent that today's the day I just want to sell the business today. And I didn't do all the stuff that I tell all my clients that they should be doing. But had I have done, I would have been much more prepared, would have probably got a much better price out of the situation as well. Prepared my staff, prepared everyone else around me a bit better, rather than just kind of having it off, off a bit of a whim. But I think just knowing that, even if you have no plans to sell whatsoever, put those plans in place and track them as well. So you're making like a noticeable improvement to like your EBITDA every single month. You're tracking your profit, tracking your costs, and doing all those things. Yeah,
definitely see that. Mark Hancock joining us from LinkedIn. He said zombie apocalypse.
It's going to be alien invasion. I'm putting it out there right now. So
yeah, crazy.
Because we already know from watching that documentary,
Elon Musk is going to have something to do with it.
We already know from watching Independence Day that the aliens use IP because you can infect them with viruses, their ship and stuff. And I think that was a documentary. So it's the next big thing. Yeah.
At least in the 90s were amazing. We only had to worry about the ozone layer back then. So I kind of want to touch. Right? Because go ahead, Pete.
Oh, sorry, go on, Andrew. I was going to say very quickly. It's scary though because every time I listen to the news every morning, it's like inflation's at a 40-year high, and it's like that's older than me. Like we've never literally lived through this time where inflation has been as high as it is. So basically, nobody knows what's going to happen because it's never happened before in our lifetime, certainly my lifetime. So it's quite scary.
Speak for yourself.
So there's a tip I would give, and again, this is not prognostication, but again, some advice for 2023. We've alluded to the mental health thing. We've alluded to stress levels going up. We've alluded to the fact that the world is a scarier place than ever. Don't watch the news. Don't spend time absorbing that type of information because, you know, we all understand the way the MSP industry works. The news industry works off scaring the wits out of us and then keeping us coming back for more. So, you know, one of the things I would say from a mental health perspective is, you know, I turn the radio off when the news comes on. I don't watch the news. I don't read newspapers. Don't go to news websites. And it's not because I'm trying to be ignorant of what's going on in the world, because of course it's important. But if you go to any of these news sites, you will literally think the sky is falling in. You know, because they are saying, you know, breaking news, inflation at this level. What does that mean right here and right now? Because as MSP owners, we need to do what we do, and we need to do it really well, and we need to do that consistently. So back to Pete's point about, you know, people getting out of their businesses and being prepared for it. The best thing that you can do, even if you're not considering selling your MSP, is getting information out of your head, getting it down into documentation, building systems and processes. Get yourself, as I quoted Scott in my MSP Insights email this week. Scott, you famously say, I'm trying to make myself pointless within my own business.
Useless. Get it right.
Useless.
Oh my goodness.
Useless. Pointless. Sorry. I said you were pointless, not useless. How dare I get it wrong? But the point, you know, joking aside, the point is, everybody, every MSP owner needs to get to the stage where the business can run without them. And sometimes it will be through necessity, you know, COVID and illness, other things that we've talked about. And sometimes it will be because, you know, you've reached that point, as Pete said, where one day you get up and go, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's what happened to me. That's what's happened in Pete's, business as well. You just want to, you get out of it. And you can do that a lot easier if you are not carrying that information in your head and it's down in systems and processes and documentation for people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the first thing that I see when I work with folks is it's a level of self-confidence and kind of embarrassment that people have, and it's kind of weird when they are contemplating getting out. It's because they feel it's some failure of them as a person, as a business owner. You know, I couldn't see this through. And it's really not. That's the hardest part that I have with people, is convincing them that that's not the case. Your business is not you. Your business shouldn't make up your self-worth. They're two different things. Your business is a product, and that's separate from you. So allowing them to make that transition. So if you're listening to this and you're contemplating that, that's the hardest thing to get over. There is no failure in getting out. And to me, it makes the most logical sense. There's so many other things that we can do with that knowledge that we have as an IT business owner. And I'll be honest, I run a lot of businesses since 8 years old. Being an MSP was by far the hardest thing I've ever done. That is the hardest business I've ever run. And I've started stuff from ground up doing construction. You know, I have a car background. So, you know, doing building construction to hiring people to grand openings, all of that. Like, I've done multiple things, and by far the IT industry was the hardest thing to manage. Like, it is so much easier to manage any other business than that. So it is not failure. So if you're thinking that, you're feeling that, and you've been contemplating that for a while, I think you just toss that aside and, you know, do what's necessary for you, not anybody else. And I think that's where we, especially again, that introverted MSP space, that we're so attached to our businesses that we feel that we are a complete failure if we want to get out. So,
and I think
I think from like a, sorry, Scott.
I was going to say, I was just going to back your point, which is when people get to that space, the thought of then trying to sell the business is even harder because they're not prepared. So they've reached that crisis point saying, this isn't for me. I can't deal with this and I can't cope with this. And I need to get out. Oh, but getting out looks like an absolute nightmare and I don't know where to start and I don't know how to begin. And I think, hindsight's a lovely thing, but if you can, consistently plan in mind with, to my point, I'd always like to try and make myself useless in the business. What does that mean? Well, it means that I systemize, I automate, I delegate, I make sure that I can step back from operations. Because again, those player manager roles, they're not taking the weekends, they're not spending time with the family, they're not booking in the holidays. The more that you can back away and do the stuff that you're really passionate about and really enjoy, and that might be spending time with the clients or spending time at the sales end, but making yourself so that operationally the business runs, the easier it is. And like Pete says, tracking the right numbers, tracking the EBIT, making sure that all stacks up, analyzing the costs, and making sure that it's ready and it's always in a place where I could consider an exit. I might not be thinking about it at all, but getting everything in shape and getting everything in line. And do you know what? The best thing that might happen is that you get the business in such a state that it is really, it's making great margin. Your EBIT numbers look great. Your customer retention stats are fantastic. You have customers in long-term contracts. You have a great product portfolio. It's actually really valuable, but you don't do anything anymore because you've stepped back so much. And so it's generating money and it's paying you. You might choose not to sell because you could have your time to go and do something else and have this business that runs here that pays you for something. But at some stage you might just say, hey, no, now it is time to sell that business because I've found a passion in something else and I don't want the distraction of even just the little bit of leftover running of this business. But it all starts by you getting ready and thinking at some point this is going to happen. This isn't my lifelong business. I don't want to do this in 20, 30 years. I don't want to do this in 10 years. You've got to be thinking not when it's going to happen, but just getting everything ready now. Start now. Start that planning. If you're not even getting those numbers in play, if you look at your finance system or your ConnectWise and you're not tracking cost of sale against every single item so that you can pull out all your different service items and pull out a multiple and an enterprise value, start doing that because it will really open your eyes to seeing, what do I need to focus on? What services do we need to improve? Do we need to get customers in longer contracts? Do we need to sell more high margin services? Do I need to cut costs in some areas? It'll just get you focusing on running a really lean operation with great margins and good customer stickiness that is a saleable asset. And so the sooner you start that, the more ready you'll be for a sale when and if you think that it's the right time for you.
Yeah, for sure.
I've seen people like, hopefully he doesn't mind me mentioning his name, but Joe Burns on LinkedIn as well, where he used to run an MSP. He sold the MSP and basically put the money into then running a new MSP. That kind of thing can work really well because if you spent your 10 years, whatever it is, growing your MSP, you've kind of grown up with all the bumps and scrapes and all the lessons you've learned along the way. It can actually be quite good if you can obviously get the deal kind of built right, where you can sell. You can obviously take some time off and enjoy yourself and relax for a little bit, and then go start up another one and start one with all of those mistakes that you've learned kind of prefixed. You hire the right staff, you get the right clients, you build all the processes and procedures in place. So I've seen a lot of, certainly with Joe and a few other people, that, being very successful by doing that. And in fact, I think it was, I think it took him like maybe a 2 or 3 years. I think he's in year 3 now, where he's actually grown it, beyond $1 million revenue in 3 years. Whereas previously, much like me, my first business was like, 6 or 7 years to get to that first million, I think it was. So you can learn a lot from running your MSP. But I think there's also, going back to Andrew's point there as well, of like, there's a lot to be said of actually being, whether it's brave enough or not taking it as a negative for you to just go and sell, because it's not a negative point of you going to sell. Like selling, the guy that took me through my exit was like, this is like your day. Like, we're working towards your celebratory day when you go and achieve the exit. You sell your business and you can celebrate and have a party. That's like what we were all working towards. And then once you do get over that, now it's like, okay, now I've got a bit of breathing space. Do I want to do it again? Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to hire those people because I know they do a job. I'm going to get those clients because I know they're good clients. You can do all the things right. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, definitely multiple ways. And I think that there's a lot of folks that are techs at heart. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I would love to see. I've encouraged that, people that I've coached. Hey, why don't you guys combine businesses? You both love tech, but you're good at different things. I mean, that's another possibility that people have. But too many people are in that place where they feel stuck, like they can't do anything,
Right.
and that they're just stuck with an animal that they created that they can't manage anymore. But yeah, I think that I totally agree. I see that coming down the pike. I see much more of that. Jason Carlton said, "Yeah, who wants to buy an MSP?" So.
I can tell you, Jason, actually, there is barely a week that doesn't go by when I don't either have another MSP or investors getting in touch with me and saying, hey, can you recommend any MSPs for sale or might be open for sale in this geographic area? I had one this week looking for MSPs in the London area between $250,000 and £1 million pounds in turnover. And so, there's lots of people out there. As Pete said earlier, as Scott said earlier, 2023 is going to be the year where you see a lot more of these acquisitions, a lot more of this consolidation. And it's the nature of the industry. It's always been such. So, so Jason, I know you asked that in jest, who wants to buy an MSP? There are loads of people out there with the money and want to hoover up the MSPs, the ones that are in a good shape there, ready to be sold.
Yeah, for sure.
If you see any with around 5 million in cash just sitting around, Richard, point them my way.
No worries, I'll just lob them over.
Yeah. I think that's. I'm going to throw this caveat in there as far as expectation levels as to selling an MSP.
Oh wow, yeah.
I think there's wild expectations of what your business is actually worth. So let me just preface that nobody is retiring and buying an island somewhere.
It's 10 times revenue, right? Just 10 times revenue. Dead easy calculations.
Yeah, my accountant told me it was 3.5 times revenue. So yeah, I can definitely.
Yeah, so just, it's kind of one of those, college football players, how many of them actually make the pros? That's kind of how the IT industry is. Like, it's not the type of industry that if you're turning $1 million or 5 million, that you're going to sell a business and not do anything for the rest of your life. You're not, it's just, that's the reality of it. I mean, you look at Gary
One thing I
Pica.
would say about valuations, because everyone gets swept up in everyone's just working their ass. Like Scott's working his ass off and hoping and praying and for this future when someone gives him the 5 million quid in cash. The thing that I would definitely suggest for everyone throughout next year is find what your number is, because that's the thing that did it for me. I don't know about you guys, but I sat down one night and went, okay, what is my number? What's the thing that would make me walk away? And for me, that was things like paying the mortgage off, having some times off with the kids, some months and years off with the kids whilst they were young, and then giving me some freedom to go and do something new in the future. I know I need to carry on working, and I was happy with that. But having that number in your head, that's then the thing that then set me on the path of, okay, is someone actually going to pay that for my company? And so we then put it out, and someone came up with like an offer way above the number that I came up with. So I was like, okay, well, we're selling because this is above the number. But I think because lots of people just do have those exact assumptions of like, well, I'm just going to keep working and keep working and keep working, and then someone's just going to give me £10 million for this at some point, or 5 million, or even over $1 million at some point.
Yeah.
If you actually sit down and calculate what the number is, I think you'll find the number's a lot less than you're probably in your brain just thinking one day it might be a tens of millions or something. So just think of what that number is and sit down and do the calculations.
Yeah,
that's why it's great to do that exercise of plot out your line items, plot out your EBITDA, plot out your margins, and then figure out, chat to people, figure out what are current this year multipliers for those types of services, and you'll come out with a very rough and ready enterprise valuation, and then you will clearly see, well, actually, this is what it's worth. Oh, yeah, that's nowhere near what I thought it was. It's not a complicated spreadsheet to bang some numbers in, and it's easy for you to forecast. Well, if I want my number, if this is my number, then hell, I've got a big gulf here in managed recurring service revenue, or I need to cut my managed service costs, or we need to improve. We need to add a cybersecurity line item because that's got great multiples attached to it this year. Or we need, I don't know, a dynamics practice or whatever it is. You'll see what are the hot properties as you look through mergers and acquisitions for the year, and who's getting the multiples, and what are the services. Plotting that out will really help you figure out what that number looks like. But it's not 10 times revenue, just so we're all clear.
Exactly.
So, Scott,
David,
you're this 5 million that you want to raise. Have you spoken to the therapist about this addiction to Fabergé eggs and gold boats that you've got? Because you need to deal with that first, I would say.
My real issue is Lego, and I just keep buying more and more Lego.
And I think it's something that we could talk a whole show about valuation. David Hewitt makes a good point, though. Your business is probably worth more whilst you're still working in it.
Exactly.
So, and I just want to preface that too, that can be a liability. If you're if you are the reason the business exists, that can actually be a liability for somebody coming in and purchasing you.
Yeah.
It is huge.
About single points of, forgive me, Scott, about the email that I quoted Scott in this week where I said Scott is pointless, which was obviously the wrong language now. But I was writing about the concept of SPF, single points of failure. If you are an SPF within your own business, in other words, if the business can only run when you're there or can only limp along without you there, then it's not a business, you own a job. And so you've got to make yourself useless within your own business. The business needs to be able to run without you. You need to build intellectual property that somebody else can come in and say, yeah, we're going to buy that off you. And thanks, Pete, Scott, Andrew, Richard, we don't need you in the business anymore because it can run without you. Because otherwise, if you are attached within the business, it becomes a really difficult, situation where you've sold the business to somebody else and you're still working within it. It's not insurmountable, as Lee Wood though said in the comments. So many examples of MSPs that have been acquired or merged, and then over the next 18 months, 2-3 years, the clients have fallen away, the staff have fallen away, and it's just not worked. So you've got to talk yourself out of your own business. Sorry, Scott.
We bought 2 businesses in our last company. We bought 2, and it was exactly that problem. The owner or the player manager was either it absolutely needed necessary to run the business, and the team all kind of worked with him, or in the other case, he held all the relationships with all the clients.
Right.
And so once he went, that personality left the business. There was no one there to look after the clients. No, the clients didn't feel like they were connected to anything anymore. There was no reason for them to stay. Both of those acquisitions were a total failure. And I can tell you one of them was £13 million that we spent. So we spent £13 million, and 18 months to 2 years later, we didn't have any revenue left from it. Total waste of money. Now,
wow.
That obviously happens to an acquiring company once. And then the next time they look and they go, owner manager, heavily involved in the business, we just go, nah, nope. Yep. So if you are in that player manager role, you have to make yourself useless. Trademark book coming out soon.
There you go. I know Pete's got to run some tribal events. One last parting shot. I'm just going to, what is kind of a crazy prediction for, I see TikTok being banned. It's already starting here in the United States. I see a full ban on TikTok soon here in the U.S. So that's my prognosticating for 2023. Any other things you guys briefly see that could be on the ledge in 2023?
I love these ones because if I say something now and it turns out to be true, this video clip is going to be repeated again and again, and I'm going to be hailed as like a tech visionary. On the other hand, if what I say now turns out to be a load of old rot, nobody's ever going to watch this video again or bring it up. So
win-win.
What I'm going to say, my prediction for 2023 and beyond is open source is going to become much more relevant within the managed service provider industry. You're going to see open source applications. We're already seeing them in the RMM space and the PSA space, but more and more open source applications are going to be out there. So it's not just going to be the commercial software that's dominating. Throw that one out there.
Pete, since you got to run first.
My prediction, and this isn't from any inside knowledge or anything, but I think that Halo might get acquired because I think they're primed for a big cash injection to then really kind of boost products and features and development. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but my prediction is someone might approach them with the 5 million or 10 million that Scott wanted and give it to them instead of Scott.
Just 5.
Yeah. What do you think, Scott? Any predictions for 2023?
I'm going to go really simple in that Elon is going to launch a Twitter coin, Bitcoin competitor, and that is going to skyrocket and Bitcoin's going to get decimated. There we go.
There you go.
You heard it here first. As soon as he launches it, buy.
Twitter's going down. Robert said that the TikTok is banned. He just started doing vids, so he's crying the blues. So
That's why it got banned.
There's one positive piece from that news then.
There was anybody on Mastodon. So, like I said, I see the rise of new social too. So
Too
anyway.
awkward. It's too awkward.
All right, guys, it's good hanging out with you. That was kind of this show has been one of my highlights for this year, joining the show with you guys. So I definitely can say that I enjoy this. Again, we're going to take a couple weeks off. We're going to come back in the new year, but I appreciate hanging out with you guys, and we had loads
big
of
shout
people
out
on
to you.
today.
Andrew is the one that makes this show happen. He's
Yes.
the one that pushes
Yeah,
all the buttons. He's the one that makes us look good despite ourselves. So thank you, Andrew. We really appreciate you.
Labor of love, guys. So I know you guys got a jet. I will see you in the new year, and you guys enjoy the time with family and be safe the next couple weeks. All right, take care.
Thank you, guys.